Hi everyone! Sometimes when you're making a graphic design and you need to cover a big space, it is a tedious drag to lay down texture for the whole entire space. And you wish you just had a stamp that you could just go dink, just like that, dink. Sound effects are everything. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this particular pattern texture that comes with Procreate Standard, and we're going to turn it into a stamp like this. So let's go ahead and get started. I have open here a 12-inch canvas by 12 inches at 300 dpi, which translates out to 3600 pixels by 3600 pixels. The first thing I want to do is go to my brush library here and create a new brush set here. So we're going to tap that little plus sign right there. And I'm just going to call this custom, custom brushes. And this brush set is now created, but it's empty. So we're going to create a new brush in that by tapping the little plus sign right there. And we're going to go ahead and get our new brush ready for becoming a pattern stamp. So the first thing we're going to do is we're in stroke path, and we want to turn our spacing all the way up to max. And that just makes it so that instead of a line that we're creating a single point for the shape itself. And this happens to be a circular shape right now, so that it looks like a bunch of dots, and that's perfect. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to our Apple Pencil. And if you don't have an Apple Pencil, this isn't quite so important to do, but you might get an Apple Pencil. So I highly recommend doing this step as well. And so if you're using an Apple Pencil, depending on the pressure, your stamp will be either a nice, solid, very opaque color, or if you apply less pressure, you will get something that's a little more transparent. And I like to have some uniformity in it all. So I like to dial that opacity setting all the way back so that pressure doesn't do anything to my stamp. If I want to change the opacity, I can do it outside when I'm working with the canvas. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to go down to properties here, and I'm going to go ahead and use a stamp preview, and then I'm going to change the brush behavior, and I'm going to set the maximum size all the way up to max. And as you can see in the preview, it really makes a nice big size. All right, and when I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to go ahead and tap done. Now let's go ahead and choose a texture, something that comes standard with Procreate. We're going to go down to the texture brushes here. I think I'm going to go ahead and choose Victorian myself. And let's see, what size do we have here? Let's see, I think I want something just a little bit smaller, maybe somewhere around 25%. Okay. Let's talk about why we're doing this in the first place. Now, these texture brushes are awesome for small areas, but it can get pretty tedious, take a bit of time here to lay down this pattern for the whole entire space. If you make a mistake, and depending on when you make the mistake, that can be really aggravating or frustrating. If you do, you can just double tap like that to go back to the beginning. So this is why I like using a stamp, one of the many reasons. Okay, that took a few minutes because I wanted to make sure before I picked up my finger that I didn't leave any, gaps or anything like that that'll show up later on. But the good news is you only have to make sure it's perfect once when you make a stamp. Because once you have the stamp, then it's just a matter of laying it down each time after that. Okay, so now what do we do? Now that we've got our image here, we need to actually convert it to a black and white image. And sometimes you don't realize, though, that you want to have a texture until after you've laid it down. You want to turn a texture into a stamp until after you've laid it down and you've used color. So you're like, oh no, what do I do? Not a problem. Just go over to your layers here and create a duplicate by gently sliding that layer over to the left, tapping duplicate. And then we're going to hide that bottom layer, turn off the visibility. And then with that upper layer selected, we're going to go over to our adjustment panel here. And we're going to select hue and saturation and brightness. And then we're going to turn the saturation all the way off so that no color. But as you can see, there's gray here. The more gray, darker the gray, the more transparent until you get to black, which is completely transparent. And the closer you get to white, until you get to white, white is completely solid in terms of laying down color when you're using your stamp. So I want to make sure this is black, and we're going to go ahead and dial this all the way down in brightness, just like that. And once you have a nice, really crisp black and white image, you're ready to go. We're going to go over to our wrench, and we're going to select Add, and then Copy Canvas. And then we're going to come over to our brushes and we're going to go back up to that brush that we created, the new one here, and we're going to tap it to open it back up in the brush studio. And now for a stamp, we're going to want to go to shape, and then up here in shape source there's this little teeny edit button, so we're going to tap that and import and paste. And it comes in like this. As I said, it's the inverse of what we actually want. So to invert it, you just take 2 fingers and tap, and then it will make our little figure a nice white color, and that's where the color will lay down when we're using this as a stamp. And when you're satisfied with that, you go ahead and tap done and tap done again. And now we're ready to test this stamp. So let's go ahead and go over to our layers, turn off the visibility of that, and create a new layer on top. And let's just change our color for the fun of it. Let's go ahead and go with red here. Okay, and then let's see, make sure that the stamp is dialed all the way up to 100%, and I'm going to bring this down. I want to stay up somewhere in the middle here and just tap down like that. So if you would like to learn more about different ways you can create brushes, check out this next video here about turning a pattern tile into a texture brush. And if you would like to know more about the tiles themselves, like creating patterns, go ahead and check out this playlist right here, which has a lot of different patterns. And meanwhile, I hope your day is amazing.